Hello, I'm Courtney, and great to be here again. I love to travel by myself. And so this is something that I came to realize within the last year is that as people, we need different things. Okay, we want different things, and that's okay. And so it's still fun to go on a family vacation. It's still fun to go on a trip with my partner, with our child, but it's also okay to go on a trip by myself because different people want different things out of a trip. And so what I've found that's really helpful is instead of just thinking about where do you want to go, Paris or Key Largo, that's what we're looking at right now. Thinking about not only where you want to go, but what is it that you want to get out of the trip. So there are so many things that you can get out of a trip, from taking a lot of awesome pictures, seeing a part of history, tasting incredible culinary delights. Maybe it's just R&R on the beach with some daiquiris. Maybe it is hanging out at the spa with your girlfriends. Maybe it's golf with your buddies. It can be anything that you want, but really think about using this time in an intentional way, because I'm not going to get on my soapbox or anything, but we are overworked people, okay? We are, a lot of us are workaholics. We're passionate about what we do, and we believe in what we do because it matters. However, it's really important to take a break, rest your mind, your body, and to get outside. So here we go on an adventure. All right, so first things first, the agenda. What are we going to be covering? The first area that we're going to cover is why solo traveling is the best. Second, we're going to talk about benefits of solo traveling. And then what prevents people from traveling solo? Okay, I wasn't always an avid solo traveler. At one point in time, I worked with a young gal, Christine, and she told me that she loved to travel by herself, Germany, abroad. She's gone to all of these different places, stayed in hostels by herself. She was in her 20s. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, you're not safe. That sounds scary. What if somebody kidnaps you? I think I've probably watched too many Liam Neeson movies. But anyways, she helped demystify what solo traveling is. And as long as you have the knowledge and you're prepared, then you can develop the comfort and the confidence to travel by yourself. And then lastly, lessons that I've learned along the way. And I would also love to hear lessons that you have learned along the way. So start thinking about that now. So let's start off with solo traveling, going somewhere by yourself. What would I even do with myself? That is usually the first question that people think about. What am I going to do with myself? Because you're by yourself, you don't have that codependence of somebody else. But here's my answer. You can do whatever you want. And that's the best part about solo traveling. You can do whatever you want, when you want, where you want, how you want, without acquiescing to anybody. Now, I'm really not trying to sound like a diva, but it is nice if I want to go to a coffee shop somewhere, I don't have to ask my partner, hey, do you want to go to this coffee shop? I don't drink coffee. Well, then I feel like we probably shouldn't go, because I'm thinking more about what matters to him and his experience than my own. But not when I travel by myself. So why is solo traveling the absolute best? First of all, a trip for yourself. Okay, I already see a spelling mistake. I'm missing an S. So I just want to put out there may be spelling errors throughout this presentation. If there are, I apologize. But a trip for yourself is really easy to plan. I'm sure many of you have gone on family vacations, maybe even obviously, a honeymoon, a trip with your girlfriends, your buddies, maybe even planned a family reunion. And as you already know, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's no joke. It's a lot of work. And I don't want to sound cynical, but I, as a planner, I always questioned whether the folks who come on the trip really understand how much work that it takes and how much discovery and planning and preparation and all of that. And thinking about that already kind of changes my mindset of going on a trip. But planning a trip for yourself is so easy. It's so much easier than planning a trip with other people. Because you know what you want, you know what you need, and so you don't have to think about anybody else's expectations. Would somebody else like this hotel? Do they want the garden window? Do they want the pool window? Just pick whatever you want. And if you want to do it on a budget, stay at Days Inn like me. I love Days Inn. I'm a big Days Inn. No, they're not a sponsor. All right. You'll get to enjoy me time. Me time is so important. Although I am an extrovert, you might have been able to tell. Whether you are an extrovert or an introvert, it's always important to have some time to yourself to be able to recharge. And the older I get, that's right, I had a birthday last week, the more I utilize the power of reflection. And whether that is replaying a scenario with my family, at work, what I really value in my life, my relationships with people in my life, what's next, what got me to where I am today, all of that kind of stuff. It really takes time by myself and time by yourself to be able to reflect on all of that in order to make change. Okay, you get to control your itinerary. This is super important because it's all about what you want to do. So if you are all about the Insta, then make sure to bring your phone and you can get on Pinterest and Google, or get on Pinterest. I almost said Google. Get on Pinterest and search murals in Santa Fe or wherever you're going and go on a mural tour, or you want to see gardens. It's all up to you. If you want to spend the whole time hiking, you get to control what time you wake up. If you want to wake up early and go hiking when it's cool, if you want to go to bed early, it's all up to you. I've found that the experiences are a lot more meaningful because I am entirely focused on myself. I'm in tune to my own needs, my own desires, and it's really fulfilling to be able to challenge myself and create an incredible trip that I am in control of. It'll make you a better traveler. In the past, we had traveled with, Apple Vacations or, all-inclusive resorts, and that's nice sometimes. But it's really fun to be able to plan your own trip, especially planning one on a budget. I mean, that is where you're really pinching pennies and making the most out of every dollar. It makes you thrifty and resourceful, and those are values that I really enjoy. But it makes you a better traveler, as in maybe you're traveling and you don't want to go to Chili's or Applebee's. Maybe you want to try a food truck, or you want to learn tips from the locals. Maybe you want to take a cooking class by yourself because your partner isn't interested. I'm not talking about my own relationship. I'm just saying. You can stay within your budget. I mean, this is really great because during COVID, when a lot of people just hopped in their cars and packed light and they just went. And you can use an app like Road Trippers. Right now, unfortunately, there aren't really affordable flights. But you can, I mean, there really aren't any excuses for, oh, I can't afford to travel. You can take a day trip down to Waco, or my partner and son, they drove this morning to Arkansas. And so they are going to be packing, staying on the trail, and using everything in their pack for the next 5 days. And I'm pretty sure he just planned this a couple days ago. So you will feel a lot more satisfied, because everything is within your control. Okay, let's talk about some of the benefits of traveling alone. First, I want to see, does anybody have any questions or comments so far? I kind of feel like I'm flying through this thing.
Any questions online?
I'd love to have a few questions or anybody to share anything. Any thoughts on the last section?
I mean, I'm all for getting to do your own schedule when you want to do your own schedule. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, but it doesn't look like we have any questions yet.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's talk about some benefits of traveling alone. So the first benefit is freedom. So it's the ultimate benefit. Like I said before, you can do whatever you want, when you want, eat what you want, choose everything to do every day without having to consult with somebody else or discuss, acquiesce to anybody else's whims. If you enjoy art, go to some museums, go check out murals, take an art class, go painting. It really is just honing in on all of the things that you love about life. So whether it's gardening or cooking, and I've had some really fun Airbnb experiences. Let me see, in Portland, Oregon, there's this nonprofit called Bunnies in Baskets, and it was $5, and they rescue bunnies. And I got to hang out with them for a couple hours and just pet them and hold them and hear their stories. Each one of them has a name and a different story. They're really cute, I think they're like lion's mane bunnies or something, but they're all really precious, and it was just fun. It was something that I probably couldn't have experienced here. It only cost me $5. And then what I was able to do when I went to Seattle is I went on a sailboat. We went on a sailing trip with a bunch of strangers from New York and all over the country, some of which had sailing experience, some of which had none. And we had a very experienced captain who broke out champagne and the charcuterie board. And it was just such a unique experience that I don't know, I'll always remember that. All right. Flexibility. So because you get to determine what you want to do whenever you want to do it, you can also change your mind. So I do always have a plan in advance. I think I've said before, I use an app, it's $29.99. No, they're not a sponsor of mine, called Road Trippers. And if anybody wants a $5 off promo code, I found one on the internet, so I'm happy to share that with you. But it was really great. Basically, I just said, okay, I am starting in Hazel. and I want to go to New Mexico, let's say, and then basically I have it make a loop based on how many days I'm able to take vacation. So then I decide, okay, what are the priorities? Well, I love scenic points, right? I love historical landmarks. Those are really cool. And parks, I love going to parks. And so basically that's what I start with, to start mapping it out. And I'm gonna show you all my map towards the end so you can see exactly what it looks like. But then I kind of estimate how many hours it's gonna take from where I live to Palo Duro, to Santa Fe, where have you. And then I don't book a hotel. I do that later. I wait to book a hotel, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But sometimes, so I always use the app. I always make sure that I over plan on the app. So I always have way more things on there than I'll ever be able to accomplish. I don't feel disappointed when I'm not able to do everything. The reason why I do that is because some things are closed still because of COVID. And so I don't want to end up in an area and look at this app and be like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to do. So if I have extra things on there to do, then it's okay. Okay, so travel when it suits you. I think this weekend is a perfect time to travel because most people have off on Monday. So that's why my partner took off. And, but yeah, you can travel in the summer. You can travel, a lot of solo travels like to travel off peak. That's because it's more affordable. So that's also an option. If you don't like a place, you can move on. And I have done that. I went to Seattle, as I already said, and here's a lesson learned. I actually paid for the hotel. I think I booked it for like 5 days in Seattle. And on day 3, I was like, okay, I feel like I've seen everything around here. Ready to move on to the next place. So I ended up kind of having to eat the hotel. They would give you that money back, but my time is more valuable than money. So I just hopped on a train that took me down to Portland. So yeah, if you plan on going to an area, I went to Truth or Consequences, and I went there and didn't realize, wow, it's a really tiny town. It's a cool town, a lot of hot springs and spas and stuff like that, but I didn't stay there. I had planned on spending the night there, and I ended up just hanging out for a couple hours and driving through to somewhere else. So this is what's nice, is when you're by yourself, you can make that call. You're not upsetting anybody else. You're not changing the plan. It doesn't have repercussions. But ultimately, you aren't tied down to anything. So if it's the same thing, if you love it somewhere, like the North Shore of Oahu, stay longer. I mean, stay and cut another part of your trip short. Okay, I thought I skipped one. Opportunities. I love this. Go where the wind takes you. Be Pocahontas. Okay. So opportunities will present themselves in your path a lot easier than when you're traveling with other people. Because if you want to stay longer somewhere, you can without upsetting anybody. And if you want to, even based on things that you enjoy, if you enjoy culinary experiences and the people that you're traveling with just want to party by the pool, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Really just dive in on what fills your cup and what brings you joy. And I've never talked to anybody who went for an opportunity and said, oh, it was miserable. And if they did, then, hey, I'm sure it was a fun story that they could bring home. Okay. Challenge. So going on a solo trip is amazing, but it doesn't all happen on its own. You have to make it happen, which means it's on you to organize all of your accommodations. But I think that's fun. Same thing with, I think we used to call them activities, and now they're called excursions. So when you search on Pinterest, search excursions, whatever city you decide that you want to go to. But I think it's fun. I mean, I know everybody's different. For me, I have always been a huge fan of like the discovery process. So even when I started my first company, it was all about like market research and just diving in and who are the competitors. I just like that stuff. I love Google. So, but anywho, challenge comes with immense growth because it may not be in your skill set. It's not planning things isn't necessarily in my skill set, but somehow I'm able to make it work because as long as I remain flexible, then it's okay. But the whole process of traveling by yourself really does force you, it makes you grow as a person, and it's incredible. I had a lot of pre-trip anxiety because before I went on my first solo travel trip, I decided like 3 days before that, okay, I'm going on a trip. I had just returned like the week prior from a trip with my partner, and it was awful. It was it was the worst trip of my life still. And it's kind of funny because I wrote a blog about it. It's called Court in the Fort. So it's courtinthefort.com if you want to read about it. And my partner, he read it and was like, wow, I didn't realize I was so miserable to be with. And I was like, sorry. It was just that trip. Okay. It was Sedona, Arizona. We were there during my birthday. My grandfather died on my birthday. I found out at my birthday dinner through a text message. But basically I had put so much time and effort into this trip. Okay. I'm talking pink Jeep tours, Grand Canyon, Arizona. That was a random thing we did. All these things, okay, Scottsdale and Phoenix Gardens and all of these incredible things. And I really just felt like he didn't appreciate it. He wanted to kind of hang out in the hotel room and watch TV and take naps. And it just wasn't a good experience. And that was really when I had that epiphany of, you know what? Maybe we need different things. Maybe he's really exhausted and he needs to sleep, and like, that's cool. And I will do things on my own in a place that I've never been before. And I think although in the beginning it's a challenge, it's so exciting because you literally don't know where you're going. And it's kind of like when you move to a place for the first time. I remember I'm originally from Wisconsin, if you can tell from this amazing accent. And yes, I do love cheese. When I first moved here in 2003, I remember the first place I tried to MapQuest, if y'all remember that, MapQuest, and print out, right, and bring with like the sheet, and then like hope you're gonna get yourself home, is I went to the Starbucks on Camp Bowie, which was in an area called Ridgely, which I'm sure most of you know. For like 3 years, I thought it was called Ridgelia. True story. But anyways, that's basically how you discover and kind of get familiar with your surroundings, is just by going places. And then next thing you know, A few days later, you're kind of able to navigate that whole area. That is being willing to take on a challenge. And once you get this feeling, once you have your first trip under your belt, and it doesn't even need to be an entire trip. If you go on a trip with your girlfriends or guy friends or whoever, family, and let's just say you want to go out and explore and your partner is asleep in the hotel room at 4:30, go out, take the rental or call a Uber or whatever, and go out and go do things. Nothing is holding you back. So once you start to do this, you'll feel like you can take on the world. So this goes into pushing past your comfort zone, right? The only way that you're going to grow is if you stretch yourself. So you have to rely on yourself. Like I said, you will be in unfamiliar surroundings, which I think is really exciting. To hear different languages or be around people from different cultures, there's different smells. It's just so fun. And there are different things in season, different foods that you can try that maybe that they don't have. I know when I moved here to Texas, one of the foods that I had never had before, believe it or not, well, there were many, was a chicken fried steak. I had never had that before. And I'd also never had brisket. And then I love both of them and I stayed here forever. So there will be people that you don't know out there, and it's totally up to you. If you want to start a conversation with them, you can. If you don't have to. And there's also no routine. So I know that as humans, we are creatures of habit, and a lot of us have a routine. I wake up in the morning, and the very first thing I do is go down to my Nespresso machine and pop in a capsule. And that's just how I kick off my day. But when you're staying in, I'm not even going to say hospital because I'm not like mentally there yet. But when you stay at the days in, okay, you can go to bed early, you can wake up early, sleep in, what have you. But you probably won't have a routine because you will be in unfamiliar territory. All right, make connections. So like I said, as an extrovert, I am kind of one of those people that, like, when I go to the store, I somehow end up talking to the people in front of and behind me. And, I know not everybody's that way. Some people are like the self-checkout people. That's cool too. But believe it or not, you will really discover kindness among strangers, especially when you tell them that, not say, hey, like, I'm Cortney, I'm here all by myself. I wouldn't do that. But if you tell them, oh, you're visiting, and if they're a local, oh, what are some good places to eat? Or even if you get lost or can't figure something out on a map, can't figure out if something's open or not, where to park, somebody's always there, even to provide recommendations. Other travelers, I met these really cool gals. So if you're watching, hi guys, from Dallas, and they work for the school system, and they ended up in the Enchanted Circle. I met them at a brewery. We were all just sitting there at the bar, and they were talking, and I was just like, hey, are you guys having a good time? I don't know. I kind of butt my way into conversations like that. But I was like, hey, are you guys having a good time? And they're like, oh yeah, how about you? And I was like, yeah. And they said, are you staying around here? And I was like, no, I just drove up. And they said that they brought their RV and they're staying at their RV and staying there for the week, which I had planned to jump all over the place. And they were like, oh, we went to this brewery and this one and this one. So it was really cool to have recommendations. We followed each other on Instagram, and we still stay in touch. So it's kind of wild. But it's human nature to help. Meet the locals. You will definitely experience the non-touristy parts of areas. Like I said, you'll meet other travelers, maybe even from Texas. But if you show interest in others, it'll be really easy to strike up a conversation. Worst case scenario, I always say somebody says no. So, oh well. So you'll make new friends. Then again, if you just want to be alone and be secluded, that is cool too. Like nobody is forcing you to make friends out there. But I have found that it's easier to develop deeper connections with people when you're hiking, when you are in neutral territory. Because then it's so much more than where do you work? What do you do? Where do you live? It's more about what kind of things do they enjoy? You know, like they'll like going to breweries or they have an RV, we show pictures of our dogs, what have you. But this is also an opportunity to build friendships all over the globe. Also, find yourself. So solo traveling really gives you the space to find you. And I think that's what happens with a lot of me time. Like I said before, this is a great time for reflection. It's a time to, to really face some of those big questions that maybe you've been pushing off. It could be a time to set new goals for yourself, both personally and professionally. Maybe you decide that you want to set goals as a family and you've never done that before. But I think what's really great about solo traveling is just the fact that if you're anything like me, that you will be constantly, as long as you remain observant to what's going on around you, you will constantly be inspired. Whether it's, hey, look at this business that they do here. Oh, that would be cool in Fort Worth. That happens a lot. Look at these tours, look at these activities. I think most of the things I'm like, that would be cool in Fort Worth. What else? There's a lot of power and strength in being alone. And I think a lot of us we have comfort around others. And, you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to kind of force yourself to spend time with yourself. For some people, they love that. Not everybody does. Not everybody enjoys reflection. But once you really lean into it, it can be transformative. Focus on what you want. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, okay? We have wants and needs. There's no point in being shy about them. Also, you can organize your day, your week, and your life around the things that you want. Learn about your capabilities. So through constant change and self-reliance, you will have stretched yourself and truly discovered that you are capable of so much. I mean, once you plan a trip for yourself and you're going around by yourself, you are finding your own food, your own water, kind of in that hunter-gatherer mentality. It's really cool. You'll even surprise yourself. And I think that's the coolest part about it. What else? Mindfulness. Okay, so this kind of goes back to the reflection, but having that time, I think it's really important. I mean, some people go to the spa, that's cool. I love hiking. I love scenic views, being out in nature, taking my shoes off and having my feet in the grass. There's just something, I guess, like forest bathing. There's just something really just powerful to connect with nature, and it just changes your mindset. You stop worrying, the anxiety goes away, it dissipates. But mindfulness, as many of you all know, because wellness and mental health and all of these things are so important, and I'm sure for most of us it's a struggle every day. But But mindfulness, taking this time to yourself, for yourself, actually contributes positively to your well-being and your mental health, which we all know is so important. This is a time for you to just sit with your thoughts about what you're happy with about yourself, what you admire about other people that maybe you want to start integrating these hobbies or traits in yourself, right, through modeling. It's also fun to just sit back and just watch other people. Not like, I mean, I guess people watching, I don't know, there's just something that's kind of serene about it. But don't worry about anybody else. This is not the time to think about anybody else. The mood that they're in, if you don't have to worry about walking on eggshells with yourself. So that's really nice. And just listen to your mind and body. I have gone out on hikes when it's 103 degrees in the desert, direct heat, in the middle of the afternoon, where it is just scorching hot. And I have crazy blisters. And I I wasn't able to reach the point in which I said that I was going to reach backcountry. And I was like, you know what? I'm happy I made it this far. I did get to see some hieroglyphics, so that was pretty cool. But I was like, I made it this far. I'm happy with that. I don't need to pressure myself or force myself, get myself hurt or put myself in an unsafe situation, because then I won't be able to enjoy the rest of the trip. So being able to listen to your mind and your body, especially when you're by yourself, because there's not somebody else there to carry you back. So go your own way. Traveling alone, like I said, you can do whatever you want, eat what you want, stay where you want. It's kind of funny because I have no guilt or qualms about this at all. But as I'm listening to myself, I'm like, wow, I kind of feel like I sound like a diva and I need a Snickers bar. But I think we need to, I just think a lot of us constantly compromise. We are so concerned about making sure that there is peace and harmony in our systems, in our environments. We want people to be happy and fulfilled at work and at home and our friends. We want to use our time to cheerlead and support them every step of the way. We have to be there to listen, really listen when they're having a hard time. And I think we deserve some time to ourselves, okay? So if you can't say that to yourself, I will say that for you. You deserve time for yourself. You work really hard, but there's no stress, no guilt, no compromises. It's amazing. Problem solving. You don't have to know everything. This is okay. It's kind of like how you used to have to memorize certain things. And then later on, we found out, oh, that's actually, some of that is bad habit because best practice always changes. And so they're like, instead of memorizing all of this, we just want you to know where you can find it. So being resourceful is extremely important. Always have an extra phone charger. When in doubt, Google it out, okay? Ask for advice. This is, when you're traveling alone, this is not the time to be stubborn. Ask somebody for help. I'm sure that they will help you. You don't need to tell them your entire, that you're traveling alone, once again, ladies. But it's okay to ask for help. Also, be patient. Quiet down that inner critic. Don't be hard on yourself. If you finally, made the decision to reward yourself by going on a trip, the last thing you need to do is beat yourself up about, the situations and the way things are happening. Just have to roll with it. And ultimately just lean into the adventure, because even when you have little hashtag epic fails, which if you want to read about some, go check out my blog, Fort in the Fort. Stuff happens, just roll with it. Laugh it off. It'll make a really good story for when you start your own blog. Responsibility. This is a benefit because once again, I think we are surprising ourselves with, hey, I can do this all on my own. And it's an extremely empowering feeling. Like I said, if something doesn't work out, no stress, nothing's written in stone. And and also like, I wouldn't be rigid. So when I said I use road trippers, I feel free to, if I'm just driving by something and something looks cool, a statue of a fox. I'll show you guys a few pictures in the thank you slide. Art, I love art, I love textures, big chili peppers hanging, all that kind of stuff. Just check it out. Park your car, go up, take a picture, touch it, get that tactile experience. Learn from your mistakes, celebrate your triumphs. And this is the last one, confidence. So if you add all of those benefits together, you will be a superhuman. It will make a huge difference on your confidence. You will then be in a position where you can empower others, right? Spread the good word, spread the good news. But when you take on the world alone, what can't you do? Well, I think we're at 7:15, but I'm going to keep going just a couple more minutes because there's usually not a ton of questions.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys are starting to think about the questions. Okay, so what stops people from traveling alone? Fear, right? Absolutely fear. Because the truth is, these are things you probably will, these are things I experienced, and if you go on a solo trip, if you already have, you will or have experienced. There's going to come a point in time where you're going to feel lonely because you're so used to being around maybe your family or your friends or your coworkers, and you are literally not used to being by yourself. You have to retrain your brain that it is okay to be on your own. The accommodations might scare you. I had never stayed at a Days Inn before, okay? And now I joke about it. I had never stayed at one before. I had driven by them plenty of times and never thought in my life that I would stay at one. Not to say like I'm too good for one. I had usually stayed at like a Comfort Suites or something. Anywho, when I was traveling on a budget, I was like, I'm going to stay here. I went to booking.com the evening. So I don't usually book my hotels until around dinner time for that night. And because that's when the best rates are. The longer you wait, the rates drop because at this point, they're just desperate to fill the room. I'm that person. I'm the person who fills those rooms. I also always get a double queen, right? We talked about this. Get a double queen room. I'm sure you all know why. Because then you have all the pillows from both beds. Okay, true story. I actually sleep with 6 pillows. 2 behind here, 2 here, 1 here, and 1 in the legs. True story. I hold the record in my office. But yeah, look at the pictures at booking.com. Read the reviews. By all means, if it says, hey, there's bed bugs here, don't stay there. Okay, I wouldn't, just because it's $62 a night, you don't want bug beds and bed bugs, sorry, Freudian slip, in all of your belongings. But, worst case scenario, try it. And if you go in there and it's a total dump and you're like, oh, hell no, I'm not staying here, then leave and go stay somewhere else. But the truth is that you're going to be on your own. Nobody else is going to make these decisions for you about where to stay, what to eat, what to go see. You have to entertain yourself. So if you are an indecisive person, just remember, not making a decision is making a decision. Okay? Analysis paralysis is a soul killer. You will learn a ton about yourself, what you are willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. Whenever I go to the Days Inn, or that's not the only hotel I stay at, but let's say whenever I go to a hotel, a two-star hotel, when I go to the lobby, I tell them, hey, going to bed early, I'm waking up early. Can you please put me in an area where there are no children, no parties? Like, put me with the older adults. That's where I want to be. It might feel weird at first being by yourself. What I really love to do is I always make a list of all of the, and I'm watching that. I always make a list of all of the books that I want to read or listen to, and I do both. I bring books to read while I'm on my trips. I usually bring like three books, and then I listen to probably 3 books during my trip while I'm driving. Now, I don't read all the 3 physical books. I just want to put that out there. I'm not reading 6 books a week, okay? But I, whether it's Audible or audiobooks from the Fort Worth Public Library, you have access to all of these. And so when I drive in the car, I love road trips, especially. But even when you're hiking, pop in your earbuds, what have you. But I play a book the whole time, the whole entire time. You'll meet people along the way. Like I said, it's your choice. I think it's awesome. Just know in the beginning, you're going to have a little anxiety. I like to call it anticipatory grief. But once you get out there, it's so much fun. It's kind of like when you have to go to a wedding or you have to go to an event and you're like, oh, I do not want to go. You think of all the reasons you can cancel. Well, and then you end up going, right? Because you feel obligated and you go and you're like, man, that was so much fun. And then you tell yourself, I can't believe I almost didn't want to go until it happens next time, right? So know your limits. If you don't want to go skydiving, don't do that. If you're afraid of heights, maybe opt out. Don't be scared. And these are just a few lessons that I've learned along the way. Not checking for COVID closures. Talked about that. Booking the hotel too early. I did that. I've done that a bunch of places actually. That was before I really learned the lessons and I was by myself. But yeah, same thing. I did that out at Yosemite, Tahoe, Napa, you name it. I've done it a bunch of times. You'll never get that money back. Overpacking, you don't want to have, if you are going on a hiking trip, you don't need to pack skirts or dresses, that's okay. I didn't even bring my makeup with me. I was like, who am I going to see? I'm literally not going to see anybody that I know. Not planning ahead. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Some people, like my partner, they love just hopping in the car and just ending up somewhere. I can't do that. And I don't feel bad about that. I know myself. That's not for me. But like I said, when you solo travel, you can do it however you want. So if you don't want to plan, that's okay. For me, it ended up being a mistake that I learned from. And then the last one is over-relying on my phone for directions. So some areas, whether in the country or abroad, you may not have cell service. So if you're trying to use a map out there and you don't have a printed copy, that you could end up in a situation that I have been in a few times. Here is an example of a trip that I took. Kind of shows the loop, some scenic points, and thank you.
All right. So we do have some questions
Okay,
and some comments.
Woo!
And I didn't want to freak you out, but I didn't save the PowerPoint when I downloaded it to my computer. So it was white pages.
Wait, what?
White pages. So that's why I moved the camera so people could see what was on the screen.
Oh, I'm so
So
sorry, guys.
I apologize to the attendees online that that happened.
Well, I will definitely give you the flash drive so you can save a copy,
Yes.
and you can share that
Yep.
with anybody. There's no trade secrets in there.
Great. I can email it out to the attendees, and then we'll also incorporate it into the recording when we
Perfect.
post it online. So, all right. So the first comment was, I travel with my kids and I still create my own itinerary, but we do something each person enjoys together. So I like hiking. So that's an activity we always do. And then my kids get to either agree on one thing together, or time permitting, do one activity for each of them.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great idea. I love that. I love that because it's really thinking about something each person will enjoy, instead of, what I've done in the past is every person has to enjoy every single activity. And that's the one that kind of gets you a little spiteful and resentful, if you know what I'm saying.
And when you were talking about having an extra phone charger, somebody suggested having a solar charger.
That's
as well.
right. Totally. Yeah, I used to have one of those. I don't know what happened to it. I'm sure somebody in the family was like, oh, cool. And it's in their room.
I'm taking off of this. When you choose to stay in a double queen, is it cheaper? Is that a cheaper room, or is it just so that you can have the extra bed?
No, it's cheap. Yeah, it's cheap. I mean, on my blog, I have some hotel prices that I pay. I mean, some are like, gosh, I don't know if they were like $36. Like, they were affordable. And I'm talking like really nice rooms, like really nice. It was like really surprising, like free breakfast, like spa, like shampoo and conditioner. I snag all that stuff from every time I stay at a room. I'm like my grandmother. Hi, Nettie. I grab all of that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it someday, but I'm a hotel hoarder.
I'm putting your blog in the chat here.
But usually 2 queens is cheaper than a king. I think
it depends on how many they have.
Yeah. Really it's based on availability. So the ones that I use are booking.com or Hotel Tonight. And I know some people are like, oh, you using those sites, like that's, takes money from the hotel system. Those people have multiple homes. That's okay. But I also love boutique hotels too.
Did you say Booking Tonight? Is that the one?
Booking.com.
Right.
Or
Hotel Tonight.
Hotel Tonight. But I do love boutique hotels too. Like in New Orleans, boutique hotel, New York, boutique hotel. There's some cool ones here.
I always go for the free breakfast, I have to admit.
Yeah, me too. And all the hotels that I stay at, the 2 to 3 stars, they all have free breakfast.
And then somebody else asked about a list of resources you use to travel. That would be on your blog,
It's
right?
on my blog.
Which I put in the chat for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And other than the app and booking.com, which websites do you think get you the best affordable rates? So anything other than the ones you've
Those
given
are my
us?
favorite. I used to use Hotel Tonight like religiously because you can level up. Been using that one for years. And every time you level up, like you can get a free room and stuff like that. But I just did the math and realized that the same exact rooms at the same exact hotels are cheaper at booking.com. And whether they don't have the level up, that gamification, right?
Right.
The carrots. But whatever, I'm saving money. There are other resources. I have a park pass. So it's free. My pass is free for the year for all of the, I think like national and state parks, something like that. I'm sure that there are some exclusions, but for most of them. It's like $89 a year. I think you also get like 50% off all the campsites and all that kind of stuff. There's a link on my website to that. Like I said, I don't have any sponsors for the blog, nor am I looking for any. So I just want you guys to know this. I'm not getting any kickbacks on any of this. The other site that I use is called gasbuddy.com. And so the last talk that I did, I showed a heat map, which I think is really cool, a heat map of all of the gas prices, so across the United States. And you can also enter in your, like, a zip code of where you're going to be, or, you know, can use GPS and where are you, and click, you know, what's the closest gas station, and it'll give you like a bunch of options, and you can pick the most affordable one if you'd like. There's so many, I think I call them like thrifty tips and tricks or something like that. There's so many of that stuff out there. Everybody does things differently. For me, I use Gas Buddy, that park pass for the national and state parks, and then roadtrippers.com, the app. I used to have the free version for a long time, but then it wouldn't let me save the trips. And I was like, this is not okay. Because I was like, I just spent 6 hours planning the perfect trip of all of the like plantations across the South from here to Virginia. And then I don't know what happened, but it didn't save. So I haven't gone on that trip yet. Any other questions?
See if there's any other. Well, I was going to ask you what trip did you take that was your favorite?
Ooh, yikes. That's really tough. I guess I'll say, oh gosh, I don't know. That's really tough. How about, I really like Sequoia. That was really cool. The trees are old. I know what I like. I like architecture, museums, local food. So I love going through like Chinatown in San Francisco. I love history, those kinds of things. I don't know. I love a little bit of everything. So I don't know. I would say maybe like so when I travel, I make loops. That's just what I do. I make a circle. So I guess the like Big Sur, Half Moon Bay, Napa, Truckee, Tahoe, that whole loop, maybe that, or Oregon. I don't know. I love all trips, to be honest. Like, it's really hard for me to pick a favorite. I'm so sorry. All of a sudden I became really indecisive. They all offer different things.
I love that. All right, let's see. I'm going to give it another minute to see if we have any additional questions.
And I don't know if they can see, but these are actual pictures from my trips.
Yeah, they're not so great. So we'll definitely send out the the PowerPoint. I apologize again for that. Had a little.
Well, maybe they'll see this one.
All right, I think we are good. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And
I hope you guys learned something. Look me up on LinkedIn,
yes.
Cortney Gumbleton, know you, and my first name. And if you have any questions or comments, nice ones, send me a message and let's get connected. Let's go on a trip together, and we'll go on a trip together and then we'll go our separate ways. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.